Hi, my name is Libby Hockenberry.
And I'm Cary Smith.
We opened the Victorian back in 2017. I came from a background of floral design and event design with a huge emphasis on plants, especially growing up. So it just kind of cultivated my love for having green in my spaces. And then I met Cary and inspired him to get into plants, which he wasn't into at all when we met. And I'll let you introduce him.
I have no plant background. I started dating Libby and got into plants through what she had just in her house. I told Libby I was working in the film industry at the time and I wanted to get out. So I was looking always to get out.
Yeah.
You had a job that you know.
I loved my job.
Yeah.
It, like I said, I came
that
from
was the problem. I wanted to start the plant shop. So I was the seed planting into her saying, let's give it a shot.
Right.
Libby said no, and I like what I'm doing, and eventually
that job came to an end, kind of unexpectedly. And so at that point, I was like, all right, let's give it a shot. So we initially started by, what everyone does. We made an Instagram, got some inventory, a small amount of inventory, kind of started thinking through what our plan would be. We didn't totally have a great plan, but when you're small and you're just starting out, we're like, let's just see what happens. So we were planning on going the market route. We had signed up for some markets and festivals, and we were gonna do that. And before we could even get to our first market date, the owner of Citizen Supply at the time reached out to us. Oddly enough, Mick Bailey, who is our graphic designer, he had a lot of his shirts and skateboards for sale at Citizen Supply at the time. So I believe Phil saw a post that Mick made about us, and that was the connection there. So we kind of owe a lot to Mick in terms of getting us kind of a foot in the door in Citizen Supply. So Phil reached out to us, said, hey, we've been looking for a vendor like you guys to come into our space. Would you like to move your operation into Citizen Supply? And we thought about it for like 2 days, and we were like, this sounds insane, because we just started. But okay, why not? I guess this is the time to try it. It was a pretty low risk to take. We didn't have to pay rent. It was more of like a percentage of sales. So we're like, this might be a good way to kind of figure out what we need to do. So we moved all of our inventory in and started opening. We opened there on November 4th of 2017. I think I started the Instagram in September, if that tells you anything. So this all kind of happened pretty fast. From there, we just continued to grow. We kind of figured out who our customers were at Citizen Supply, changed our situation a few times, and kind of grew as our customers grew with us. So it was interesting to kind of see what they wanted. I had the original plan that we were going to pot every single plant in a planter. Quickly we learned that was not the move. So that changed from us offering potted, or we had some potted plants, but then we had a lot of plants in nursery pots, and we let the customers choose their planter. And then we started our repotting service, and that kind of took off. People got word of it, and they loved that you could come and get a plant potted for free, which we still do to this day if you buy a plant and a planter on the same day. We did start selling our soil from day one, and we still sell our soil mixes today. You can see them all behind us. That has also grown and adapted over time, and now I feel like our soil is some of the best you can get for indoor plants. So that's kind of how it started. Yeah. But back then, like I said, there weren't a lot of places where you could go and be really inspired by plants. You had big box stores that offered the same old stuff. So we really wanted to bring a creative vision to our space and not only provide a good assortment of kind of harder to find, but also very, classic indoor staples. But we also wanted to provide inspiration for folks when they came through the doors of our shops to be inspired to make their place and their spaces creative, filled with plants, to learn about them, to think of plants as not just, green living things that you put in a corner in your space, but to learn how to decorate with plants, but in a well thought out way. Some people think of decorating with plants like, oh, I want this here and this there, but we also wanted to take it a step further and educate to say, you can have really great plant styling, but also let's make it work for your space so that your plants thrive and they live and you learn how to care for them and you talk about your plants with confidence, and then you can have more confidence to build on your collection. So
yeah, it's not just about the plant by themselves, but the finished product with the pot.
Yeah.
Complement space.
Yeah, and something I think that Cary's so good at now that he's come into his own with plants is, if you look at all of these desert shows or plant shows, especially in the desert world, they'll have amazing plant pairings, but also with amazing pottery. And I think that's something you were inspired by.
Yeah, totally.
Too.
We try to offer cool pottery, not just the basic stuff.
Yeah.
But, there is some basics as well, but.
Yeah, gotta have both. I will say the pandemic has made it a little bit trickier for us to have as large of a selection of handmade pottery, just because the price points are a little bit higher, and I think folks are a little more money conscious these days and they want a bit more of an economical product. But I think we're getting back to a point this year where we're gonna start peppering in more of those really fun, unique handmade offerings, just because it really elevates your plants.
Yeah, we try to find local ceramic artists, and we rotate a lot of our offerings. So,
yeah.
If a customer comes in 1 week, it's going to be different. Maybe 6 months down the road, just try to freshen up what we offer.
At this time in our life, we now have 2 standalone shops, one located in East Atlanta Village that we opened in 2021, pretty dead in pandemic times. It seemed far away from the pandemic at the time, but it really wasn't. I think we were all still wearing masks at that point. And then we are now open in our new 4th Ward location on the Beltline. This location was moved from Ponce City Market, where we had our standalone store that opened in 2020, literally in the middle of COVID. And this store opened in August of last year, in 2023. And then with the addition here, we have our new cocktail bar called Burley's Bar, a brand new business venture for us. So now we're not just plant shop owners, but we have a bar as well. We always had the idea of including another element to our shops. It's kind of an idea we had really in the early stages of Citizen Supply. We wanted to bring cool plants to Atlanta, but we also wanted to make spaces where folks could feel like they could spend some time and hang out and be inspired and have creative moments. Now that we have the cocktail bar, it's a version of our East Atlanta shop, just in a different way. So at East Atlanta, we have our friends Bellwood Coffee who run the coffee program there. So at that store, you can go in the morning, have a coffee, browse plants. A lot of people go there and work on their computers every day. It's like their office, which is kind of fun because they love being surrounded by all the plants. And then here at our 4th Ward location, we have Burley's Bar, which is a full cocktail bar, and it's totally fun up there. The cocktails are great, huge patio. We do live jazz every Tuesday night. And so this space has really kind of lended itself to a very different type of crowd and a different feeling. If you go into one shop on any given day, they just feel totally different, but in a good way. So it's fun to see.
Yeah, it's important for us each of our shops to be an experience for a customer. It's always hustling and bustling, and people are it's a lot of fun. Each shop is different vibe, but they're both a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I can't really remember our initial conversation with Mick when we came to the realization that we needed a logo. I think that's really what it was. We were like, okay, this is actually kind of turning into a legit thing. Probably need to start thinking about a brand.
Yeah, we did that at Citizen Supply.
Yeah, no, I think even before we were in Citizen Supply. We weren't even in there yet. We knew obviously that Mick, he's a great designer, and we loved what he did in his own work. We kind of sat down with him, I think, initially and just kind of told him what our vision was and what we wanted the brand to feel like, which is fun, relaxed, casual, but creative. I think those are the words that I maybe would use to describe it. Kind of let him have a little bit of free range with that. And
I think we told him colors, stick to this color palette.
Yeah, and then he came up with some ideas, and from then on we've been working together. And so we will, we don't really micromanage him much. He kind of understands our brand. He understands us. We've been working together for almost 7 years now, and we'll tell him kind of a general idea of something we have in mind, and then he'll flesh it out for us, and we're like, yeah, this is great, or let's tweak this here. But for the most part, Mick understands our vision, so it works. So the cat is funny. We are large cat people, if it's not obvious. We have 2 cats at home, and actually maybe 4 now, because we have 2 outdoor cats now. Yeah. So it's the whole thing. But our child's first word was cat. We're just big cat people. And we found a terracotta cat, or we thought it would be funny to incorporate a terracotta cat into the shop somewhere and kind of hide it. And so it became our mascot. The one here, his name is Victor. We did find another cat for our East Atlanta store. It was never the same. I just sold it over the weekend because I've had so many people ask us for years and they're like, can we buy this cat? And I was like, well, no. But then they wore me down this week. I was like, honestly, she wasn't ever the move. So I told Mick, I was like, we want to incorporate a random cat into our branding package. And so he came up with Victor, the sleepy cat. He was an enamel pin for a while. He's been on a sweatshirt, he's been on a hat. He's now on the sign upstairs that says the plant shop's closed, so that's fun. But yeah, that's the story behind the cat. And then the the potted plant with the checkered board is, we incorporate checkers into all of our shops, so it's just kind of a big piece of ours. But yeah, so going back to kind of our original reasoning for opening was education was a big part of it. We wanted to not only inspire people creatively, but also inspire them with like the knowledge they needed to continue to want to buy plants. I think it's so defeating when people buy a plant and they don't buy the right one and they don't know how to care for it and then they kill it and they're like, ugh, I can't be a plant parent. I don't have a green thumb. It's like, well, if you know, Cary here didn't know anything about plants. Right. And then he's the one who wanted to open up a plant shop. So he arguably now has more knowledge about plants than I do sometimes. So, you know, it's all about how much effort you want to put in, how much knowledge you want to gain, how much time you want to spend on your plants. And I teach this in my workshops, and we provide workshops for this very reason, so that folks can come and learn about plants and be inspired and really have a way to expand on their collections. So that is why we offer workshops. It's so fun to see people's eyes light up when they're like, oh, I get it now. Like, that makes sense. Or I didn't understand light in that way, or how to water correctly. And
how to pot a plant.
Or how to pot a plant. Like, it's sometimes the simplest things to us, we teach it in our class and they just get so excited. And it's just that kind of connection, I think also is what brings our customers back in the door, because they can trust us and they know that we're here to help support them in their plant journey.
Biophilia.
Biophilia is a big one. If you're not familiar with that term, it's essentially a tendency for humans to need to be surrounded by plants and nature. And I think the reason why that came out in the pandemic was because everyone's life got put on hold and they started working from home and they started realizing that they were like, oh my gosh, I'm in my house all the time. I need something around me that's like living and green and helps me feel better about my space. And plants there's many proven studies that they improve. Obviously they improve our air quality. They also can improve focus. They improve your mental clarity, things like that. There's so many health benefits to having plants indoors and around you. Not necessarily just indoors, but just surrounding yourself with green. And I think a lot of us who live in this city, you know, we have to kind of work a little bit to be in touch with nature, whether that's we leave the city and go on a hike, or we add more green to our spaces. But you'll notice a lot of these office buildings are incorporating more natural light so that they can incorporate more plants, because they've also found that it increases productivity for their employees. It makes people happier. People come in our space and they're like, oh, it's so nice, the air feels fresh. And when we do installs for clients, every time we do the delivery, we take their home from a 0 plant situation and we add plants to their space. They always comment on how much better it feels. So I think, you know, not only was the pandemic just a crazy time for everybody, but in particular, people just had this connection and they wanted to be around nature, and it helped them feel better. And we're really happy we were able to stay open and connect so many people with new plants. People come in still today and they're like, I learned about plants in COVID and now I just love them. So it's kind of fun to see that. Yeah. Now that we're not doing any more build outs and we're not opening any more stores, we now have the opportunity to really dig in and do workshops and more of our install services, which is a whole nother leg of our business that's not really seen as much. But also we introduced our Dirt Bag Club a couple years ago. It's our loyalty program, and we thought that name was so funny. I was like, okay, you gotta be in the Dirt Bag Club. So people always chuckle when we tell them, we're like, are you a dirt bag? And then it's a fun conversation to get into. But basically, it's our loyalty program. People come in and they spend money with us and they earn dirt bag bucks. And then we send them coupons. It's also a great way to collect folks for our newsletters. So we've seen that since we introduced it, people get really excited about it. We're also thinking this year about doing some exclusive Dirtbag member events where we open up the plant shop downstairs exclusively for members, and they can like come down here and enjoy drinks from Burley's after hours with some after hour shoppings, or have first looks at plant releases, etc. So maybe some fun things coming down the pipeline.